I wanted to play football in high school, so I went to DeMatha for visits. I went to Gonzaga, and everyone was saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm too small." And McNamara happened to give me a chance, and they were still saying I was too small to play running back as well. So I really, really, in high school was like, I need to get myself together. I was working out all the time in the gym, eating, really putting hard work to get to where I wanted to be. And I think those combined, knowing how much fitness impact me personally and how much fitness can impact other people, really just kind of drives my love for both of them, honestly.
We're back with the Solid Health Podcast. I'm your host, Chris Leader, and I'm joined with MAQUIS Barnes. We're going to do something a little different on this episode. We're going to talk about ourselves. We're going to talk about who we are, where we came from, and figure out what fuels us, not only as coaches, but as athletes.
Cool. All right. Perfect. All right. Yeah, guys. I mean, for those watching, thanks for watching. I think next time we should, as I mentioned earlier, thinking about doing this in person, maybe get the mics, potentially. If that is, MAQUIS is up for it. Well, let me know what y'all want, right? Let me know what you guys are pushing for, what your interests are. And we always want guests on our show as well, on our lives. So whenever you want to hop on, just shoot us a message and we'll do that. So anyway, get to it. MAQUIS, I see you've been growing exponentially on your Instagram. I'm really impressed. I'm not surprised because you put a lot of work in, but I'm also very impressed. So good for you, man. I think your stuff is getting wild.
I appreciate it. I do put in a lot of time and work, and it didn't start that way, that's for sure. It did not.
Okay.
But just I think learning, well, using analytics, using my resources that the app gives you to kind of track what gets engagement, what doesn't, has played a huge role for sure.
Yeah. Okay, I got you. Yeah, I think sometimes when you post too can be a factor. Yeah. So I've noticed that myself. But no, man, it's good to see that. I'm like, all right, I'm not surprised because you put in a lot of work and time. So I'm glad like things pay off. Sometimes things that you put in the time for, they don't pay off the way they want to. But good, cool, man. So today is a little bit about us. So for those watching, I know in the past we've talked about struggles, we've talked about overcoming obstacles. What I want to do is a little different. I want to take a different approach and talk about us a little bit, who we are, what we do, what got us to where we are today. We'll kind of go from there. It's cool. So MAQUIS, if you want to start.
I don't know if people even know, me and Chris go way back. So we went to high school together. BMAC, Mr. Mac.
Yes.
I'm not repping. So me and Chris met in high school. Were we cool in high school? I don't really remember. I mean, I remember you, but were we cool?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah. We were different people. We were cool. I mean, we didn't, I mean, we didn't like had fights with each other or anything of that nature, but we were cool. We were different people because you played football. You were like at the football niche. Yeah. I played soccer. So we're on different niches. It's not like, we were like button heads all the time. It's not like a rival, right? It was never like that. It was just we were different people. We had classes together, and we had times where we would like laugh at the same things. I remember certain stories.
We had
sometimes.
You remember Matthew?
I do.
Right? You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. The things that he said, like I don't even know. You don't even know where to start. Like even when you react, it was funny to me because I would have reacted the same exact way, and I'm like, he would like say the most outlandish things, and I'm just like, my jaw dropped, and I just started giggling. But
He was a super
yeah, I
cool
do
guy,
remember
but
him.
just he was. I'm gonna just leave.
Oh, he was mellow. He was great. I feel like sometimes I feel like people put him under the ringer, and no, he was cool. I will agree that there's some things that are a little
Well,
okay.
for sure.
All right, so but all yeah, it's people grow, people change. I know I do, and I'm still changing to this day. But yeah, I remember. But yeah, continue. Yeah, we went to high school together, and
Just people.
we were just people.
I
I
wasn't
guess.
like
Yeah.
super popular or anything like that, but I played sports, so people knew who I was. But being that I played
Yeah.
sports, I played football, I wrestled, I ran track, I played basketball, so it was year-round sports for me every single year for 4 years. So fitness and exercise was always like a staple. Eating right, keeping track of what I'm eating, how I'm eating, recovery, things like that have always been a part of my life, even since middle school. So me
Yeah.
and I was the strong guy in high school. So people just kind of gravitated toward me when they saw me in the
Right.
gym. They're like, hey, how do you do this? How do you do that? How do I get my arms like this or get my legs like that? And I was always able to help people. So throughout college, even the same, help people out on my free time in between classes and stuff like that. And then eventually I just started charging people for time. And then after that, I said, let me just get certified and make this thing official. And I always had a
Right.
passion for fitness and exercise. I always had a passion for people living healthy lives. My family, not the healthiest overall, I will admit. So I think being an example too towards my family, so they can see things are possible if you just kind of hone into things. Um, but anyway, fitness has always been a part of my life. So it was just a natural transition to become a trainer after high school, college for sure.
Yeah.
And then now,
Cool. So that pushing pushing for health and people to be health and just be
yeah.
better than what they were yesterday is a big aspect for
What
sure. Yeah.
when did you start getting
Cool.
into training?
Yeah, for sure. No, good question. So for me, in my just backstory and how I got into where I'm at today. So I played. So to Marquise's point, I played soccer, and well, my point as well, I played sports as well. I played mainly soccer in college. I should have done track, but it didn't happen. So, but I was definitely more of a runner than a sprinter or a weightlifter. Because running was like a big thing. It was people get like
Yeah.
runner's high. You probably heard of that term before. And I liked it. And I was really fit from a conditioning standpoint, from a strength standpoint. I was okay. I wasn't like a football player or anything or a wrestler, so I wasn't that strong. But I kept getting injured a lot in high school. I remember my freshman year, I had a cast on um, when I took summer courses at McNamara when I first started, and people just remember me as the guy with the cast because I tore my meniscus. Yeah. So I tore my meniscus. Got better, and I tried out for soccer. Didn't make it. Waited until the next year, and I was different the next year. I was adamant of my sophomore year I was going to make varsity, and I was really up there fitness wise. Like I was traveling over that summer. I was traveling to Europe. I went to the UK. My dad was a coach for JV, started to hop on sophomore year, so we did a lot of what we called Manchester United tests. So a lot of sprints, a lot of running, a lot of endurance stuff. And I've mastered that really well. I really thought I made varsity, but I made JV. So towards the end of that career, that season, I was pulled up to varsity, but I got injured. And then next season, on my junior year, I got injured again. And senior year, even beginning, I was injured. Part of it was grit, part of it was ignorance, part of it was anger.
Yeah.
Because when you're a teenager, you're angry anyway. So, um, so that's part of like my high school sports realm. In college is when I took things a little differently. I hurt myself again in college, and I'm like, all right, this is a little bit of a deal breaker. So towards the end of my freshman year, I ended up hurting myself. And then sophomore year, I started to make a change. Like freshman year, I started lifting, but sophomore year, I started really taking strength training way to a different degree. And my nutrition was definitely different. People didn't recognize who I was. So like people who went to McNamara, who went to Towson, didn't realize who I was and how much I've changed and grown. And yeah. And people are like, yo, how'd you do this or how'd you do that? I'm like, honestly, this is the steps that I've taken. This is my way path. And then I didn't think to become a trainer until after college, after I graduated. And keep in mind, I didn't study sciences. I studied more of the business side and finance sector of things. So I, after college, got a job right out of school, and I didn't like it. I hated it, and I thought about what I really enjoyed, and fitness was a big thing, and people always ask for my advice, or at least to that degree. And I'm like, maybe just get a coaching cert. And that's when I decided to become a coach. So when I became a coach, I worked at high level gyms such as Equinox, just to get my feet in the water, how the things run. Didn't have a great experience, but it didn't stop me from looking at other avenues like online coaching and hybrid coaching, for instance. So I've done mainly what I've done is a lot of online coaching, and I part-time for about a year and a half. I stopped recently, but I used to work at Gold's Gym in Riverdale, so close to College Park and CP. It's different chain. It's not like Crofton or Bowie. It's definitely a different chain. But I did that, one, mainly to coach classes, two, to expose myself as a coach when it comes to boxing, because a lot of trainers, and this isn't to put anyone down, some people have gifts. Maybe it's just strength training. Other people love kettlebell work. People like animal flow. Boxing was a thing I picked up at Equinox. So I was never big on boxing when I first started, but I really started to fall in love with it and see why it's a thing. So I did that, and when being at Gold's, that's when people tap into my services as a coach from a nutrition standpoint, training standpoint, online stuff. And from the main source of income, which is my job, with my part-time job and my business, I was making pretty decent income. It wasn't the biggest, like it wasn't where I wanted to be. Still got ways to go, things to tweak and look at, but from an income standpoint for a couple months, it was doing really, really well. Then people weren't that committed. People weren't really into themselves, and that's part of life, but that's kind of says something about them, not so much you as a person, as a coach, right? So it kind of hit a little short for a long while. Picking people up here and there, like got a couple clients now who are committed, and one person is off the hook with me, just trying it out, and it's good because she gets to have a transformation pick day one, and then we'll see, are we doing day 30 or day 60? So it's good. This is thinking to me, right? People ask, why do you charge so much as a coach? And I took it from a different perspective. One is because this is how much I see value in it. But if you look at it from a different lens, the reason why it's charged so much is, people are really adamant about their funds. If they invest in something, they want to make sure their funds are best invested. Like they're making sure that their funds are used in the best way possible. So if I charge $30, people are going to put $30 worth of work in, if that makes sense. I hate to say it, but that's the case, right? So that's a different viewpoint of how I saw. I was thinking about that yesterday. I'm like, all right, so if people really ask why, there's another reason to it. So that answers that's my reason of coaching, if that makes sense.
I had a quick question. So you mentioned your injury history in high school and college. Has it molded or shaped how you approach training your clients?
It has. I would say it has. So when getting injured, you gotta think, hey, you don't want that to happen to anyone else, because when you're injured, it can break you, right, for a while. So I've been in my experience of injury. So definitely the first thing I tell people, I promise you this, there's no question about it, is we'll do some sort of warm up and prep work before we get into the real deal, regardless if it's explosive work, if it's endurance work, strength work, whatever. You're going to get something of a prep before we get to it. So yeah, I would say definitely molded me.
Yeah, and I think personally, I'm not 100% sure, I can't say, but I feel like if my background was not in sports and I just came into training fresh from a cert, from what Nathan told me,
yeah,
I probably would approach my clients and my sessions very differently. Because Nathan's very systematic, and it's a science. Actually, where did you get your cert from, or your coaching cert through?
So I got a couple. So ISSA was the very first one I got. So real simple, work from home. I'm like, something, this makes sense, and I can coach well. It was great. And then 2 years later, I got precision nutrition certified. And prior to that, I got kettlebell certified. But precision nutrition was big because it gives you a different wavelength of coaching. So it gives people empowerment rather than you telling the power, having that power. So rather me telling you what to do, it's more so, hey, what do you think you should be doing?
Right, which makes it.
So I mean, people know that, but people need that reminder. So that's where I'm at from a certification standpoint. I know at some point I will have to get recertified. So all of us do. So I'm thinking about what to get next. Maybe animal flow, maybe not. More some body weight work. But we'll see. But yeah, that's one of my certs. What about you? Talk to me about your certs.
I went to NASM. And actually, it's
right?
a funny story because I didn't officially, quote unquote, start my business until COVID. So I was always training people on the side, but I was like, I had a whole bunch of free time because I worked for a physical therapy clinic at the very beginning of COVID. And at that time, a lot of our employees were getting sick, so we had shut down for a little while. So I was home for like a month, and I was like, yo, I'm bored. I need something to do, And I was still working out. I was still training people. I was going to people's homes, training yards and their basements and their driveways, local parks, things like that. And I was like, let me actually, even though I know what I'm doing, let me hone in on the skills scientifically so I can get better. I don't have anything to lose. So I went through NASM, and their program was about a 6-week to 8-week program. I finished it, honestly, in like 3 weeks. Because I majored in biology. So anatomy, physiology, kinesiology, I already had a background in that. So it was really all the same stuff. But once I got my cert, things just started kind of rolling from there. But I went through NASM. I got my cert in just, PT, Certified Personal Trainer certification. But I also have my certification in sports nutrition and general nutrition for my research to get my CEUs. So I got total.
Right.
My certification in personal training. I'm a certified sports nutrition coach and a certified general nutrition coach. So.
Okay. That's what's up. You mentioned one of the things that you mentioned was if I didn't get the background I did, training and coaching would be different for you. What do you mean by that?
So when it comes to new clients especially, I'm very, very, what's the word to say? Cautious. Because one, NASM is very systematic in the way it does things, and it generalizes people into one basic or two basic categories. Either someone who has fitness experience or has had, time training in the past, and people who have not. As you know, there's fine lines and wrinkles in between each of those categories, and it's a very, very broad spectrum of clientele that you'll see. So the majority of my client population are women aged 25 to 40. Now, mind you, I was an athlete growing up in high school. So when you approach exercise as someone who has been exercising and has all their life, as opposed to someone who has not. NASM tells you and shows you how to train, but they don't teach you how to instruct, if that makes sense. Like someone who
Okay.
has
Yeah. I
fitness
see what you're saying.
experience knows how to do a squat, knows how to lunge, knows proper form when it comes to bench pressing or push-ups. The average 25-year-old woman does not. So it's not only you're training them, but you're teaching them how to work out. You're teaching them form. But also, in my opinion, since I was an athlete, I'm really, really big on injury prevention. And one thing about NASM, it does not emphasize, corrective exercise. So I come into it and I look for people with, certain abnormalities, whether it's their mobility, their flexibility. So I try to identify as many problem areas as possible while how to care for themselves and work out for themselves and learn how to train. So that way, honestly, once our 1 month, 2 month, 3 month time period is up, my objective is for my client to be able to work out on their own. To be honest with you, I don't want my clients to rely on me for fitness the rest of their life. You should be able to leave my session after a month or 2 months and feel comfortable working out on your own and be able to do a workout on your own and know what to work, how to work, what muscles you're working in the proper form to do so. So I don't think if I didn't have my background in sports and know how important it is to not just coach somebody, but also teach and instruct, I think my workout regimen and how I approach things would be completely different.
Yeah, makes sense. No, I agree. I think when it comes to training somebody, you want to put them in a position where they're better than what they were 2-3 months ago. Depending on what they're looking for, I think it's a big thing. Sometimes they'll come back, or they'll have to continue for longer of a session. Like I'm not in honest, sessions and programs are finite. There's going to be an end point at some point, to some level, some degree. But if somebody's trying to take their physique, I like to use the word physique, to a different level, a next level, then the commitment is a little different. It has to be a little longer. Maybe they're competing for a show, maybe a bodybuilding show, for instance. That's a different ballgame. So yeah, no, I agree. Some people come back and they say, hey, can you give me some pointers and tips? And that's where I offer maybe like a book or something like that to say, hey, if you're looking for something different outside of your routine, here's what I can offer you. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Here's a question for you, and I think it's a big topic. Fueling your fire. What drives you? I know you mentioned, your family. I'll tell you about my family. My family, at least from my dad's side and a little bit my mom's side, they come from a background of sports. So like rugby, soccer. My mom was more soccer. Dad played cricket, but sports was everything, right? So sports is a big thing. A little bit of boxing. I'm not big on it, but it is what it is. What exactly drives you to be into sports? I know you mentioned the drive to push people and be successful, but sometimes there's an internal factor as well, if that makes sense. What would you say that internal factor is? Is it something that you saw that gave you a wake-up call? Is it something that you read, for instance, that gave you that wake-up call? What's that internal factor, that fuel in that fire?
Being a trainer, because you mentioned sports.
Yeah. So I'll specify. So in terms of being a trainer and an athlete, so we'll put two and two
as
together.
far as being a trainer, like I mentioned, not to put my family on blast or anything like that, but my family for the most part are generally more, a bigger people. So I was always the smallest person in my family. My mom's small. My he's a big guy, but he's not like overweight. He works, like has a very active job, so he's in shape. So yeah, my family's more of the heavier set, type. So I've had to see a lot of my family members deal with a lot of health conditions and problems. Even just recently, last year, my godbrother, who was 38, died from a heart attack at 38. Yeah, I've
Sorry to
been
hear.
having to see that stuff really throughout my whole entire life. I've had friends that are like
Yeah.
40 and 45 dying from strokes, like, from hypertension. It's so crazy, and it's all preventable. Um, so that factor kind of pushed me to say, hey, I can help prevent people from shortening their lifespans. I can help impact people's lives, help them live healthier, live better, live longer.
Mm.
That was really my internal motivation for training. To honestly impact as many
Yeah.
people as possible. Like I'll tell anybody this. Obviously, the money is cool, it's fun, but I don't train for the money. If I didn't charge people, I wouldn't charge people.
Right.
I truly wouldn't. I train because I like being able to help people and impact people's lives. I want to be able to walk down the street and the lady walking beside me is like, "Oh, you're Marquise. You helped my cousin lose 50 pounds, and he went from pre-diabetic to not at risk." Like things like that really impact people's lives. That's what I look for. At impacting as many people's lives as possible. That's like, it makes me smile literally just talking about it. But as far as sports, I've always been in sports. My whole entire life was always sports. I loved watching football, loved watching basketball. My favorite football player growing up was Michael Strahan. I'm a huge Giants fan. And my favorite basketball
Yeah.
player was Kobe Bryant. So that definitely fueled me. Um, and I was, growing up, I was a small kid. I was always the skinny guy, but I was fast. So as I was being put in football and all these different types of sports, oftentimes I was thought I was too small to play the position I wanted to play. So my dad put me in all these
Yeah.
different like programs to help me get stronger, get faster, and I worked my way up until I was a really, honestly, premier athlete. I mean, in middle school, um, I was like maybe 110 pounds, like super duper skinny. And that was always my biggest
Yeah.
knock, trying to play for high schools and stuff like that. I don't know if I transferred to McNamara. Um, I wanted to play football in high school, so I went to DeMatha for visits. I went to Gonzaga, and everyone was saying, "Oh,
Yeah.
I'm too small." And McNamara happened to give me a chance, and they were still saying I was too small to play running back as well. So I really in high school was like, I need to get myself together. I was working out all the time in the gym, eating, really putting hard
Yeah.
work to get to where I wanted to be. And I think those combined, knowing how much fitness impact me personally and how much fitness can impact other people, really just kind of drives my love for both of them, honestly.
Makes sense.
What
Makes
about
sense.
you?
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Wow, that was a really good answer. So that was really good. For me, from a training standpoint, I'm with you. I say it's coming across as, I don't want people to get injured the way I did. I don't, sometimes struggle is there. Sometimes you're going to have to go through the struggle, but that's what defines who you are. And when people step into a phase or into a different mode that they're not really used to, people immediately get shut off or scared. What drives me is allowing people to see past that and see the end goal rather than the means goal. So if someone is trying to change their physique overall, and they see the obstacles, I always remind them, hey, what was the real reason why you wanted that physique? Because that physique is driving you. So what drives them drives me. If it means, hey, I want to give some free pointers on me to help them get an inch, a foot, maybe even a yard, even a mile closer to where they like to be, I'll do it, because that's my goal at the end of the day. If you really enjoy what you do, which is I personally do, I find a drive. It wakes me up in the morning. It's like, oh damn, this is what I got going on. Then you're more inclined to help that person. Like the mood's different. The mood's different. When your mood's different, someone else's mood's going to be different too. So you feed off people's energy. And that's a big thing. And I have different energy when it comes to coaching. Sometimes I clown around. Even when I work out, I clown around, but I still get the job done. I crack a joke here and there, and like just make sure people are in a good mood. Sometimes I'll clown around and be like, oh, what are you doing this for? But it's always to lighten the mood, right? It's always to joke around and have fun. So that's from a training standpoint, what drives me. From a competition, I would really, from a sports and athletics standpoint. So the reason why I went in high school, it was between McNamara and DeMatha. So it was between those two schools. Those are the big ones. Gonzaga, I'm not really for it, but my dad went to all boys school in the UK. So I was like, if I wanted to follow suit, I'd follow suit. Probably DeMatha was the way to go. So I shadowed, like you, shadowed a lot of schools. DeMatha was a big one. I'm like, why can I do that? No distractions. I get to be focused. I knew a couple people went to DeMatha who would probably would have gone to McNamara if they did it all again. So you never people's experiences are different. But my mom really wanted to push for Mac, and I have a chance in terms of sports to actually play and compete, and that's what I did. I went to McNamara. I would definitely say towards the end, senior year, there were like certain people, especially on my team and just around in class. You probably know these people. I'm not going to mention their names, but they really try to get under your skin. They really try to push you through. Some more than others, and they think that they're better than you, or they're stronger than you, or faster than you. They wouldn't recognize who I am today. Let's put it that way. So, and when I got hurt again in college, that's when I started taking things to a different degree. And when I started playing intramural sports, especially soccer, I was a little bit more physical than everyone else, just because one, I'm competitive, and two, I'm competitive, but I play fair, right? So I like to play fair and push for competitiveness. But I guess it's like, hey, I want to be better. It's like I want to be better than you. That type of feel, right? Like I want to be ahead of you. So you're pointing at me like you know. So that's where I'm at. It's like, hey, I want to be a step ahead of you. I want to be a mile ahead of you, and I want to do whatever it takes to win. And I'm going to tell you what I've done, and this is what I'm going to do to win. Like I kind of let that again, I'm bringing back Cobra Kai because I like Cobra Kai. It's like, that fear and pain is only temporary. Defeat is only temporary. If I lose, it's because, I lost, but I didn't make it easy for my opponent. That type of thing, right? Like I want to win. Like who doesn't want to win? I want to win more than anybody else. But if I lose, I want to make sure I lose knowing that I put 100% out there. Same with lifting. There's some guys that are always going to be bigger than me, but they have a lot of respect for me because of how I train and the way I train. I put a lot of time and attention for my training, and I put it in my programs as well. So I do a lot of drop setting for me, a lot of what do you call it? Eccentric, concentric movements. So first do the eccentrics and the concentric movements, and I do a lot of high repetition on those. Focus work, so a lot of, to your point, as similar corrective work, corrective exercises. That way I don't get injured. Now, granted, I just recovered from a patella tendon rupture, and my dad just had a full-on knee replacement because it was about that time. Yeah, it was about that time. But you'd be surprised with what you can do with a full-on knee replacement, from what I'm hearing. So, the key is to really have that vision and that grit inside. Sometimes, and I hate to say it, sometimes anger can play a factor. That frustration can play a factor because it helps you focus. It helps you focus. So yeah, that's who I am from a sports perspective, and that's kind of how I coach people, how I show people, hey, you have empowerment. So like the story that I had earlier today about Johnny Lawrence empowering people. There's something that your generation really needs. That's kind of the same thing that I have. Hey, my training is something people need because it's not so much a physical aspect. It's also a mental aspect, improves memory, concentration, focus, grit, things of that nature. So yeah, that's where I'm at. That's me. Yeah. At some point, I do want to box. Maybe I might get some people to box with me or something, do a little sparring. But that's the competitiveness in me, and that's why I want to relay on that kind of legacy, that
No,
grit.
for
Hopefully
sure.
that
And that
answers the
is
question.
mention the competitive nature of things, because you kind of took the words right out of my mouth as far as competitiveness. I am probably the most competitive person that I know. And like I told you, my favorite athlete of all time growing up was Kobe. You know, the Mamba mentality thing. So I was always what it was. I always want to be better than you. Always. When I train my clients, I want to be the best trainer they've ever had. When my clients are done, I want my clients to be in the best shape they've ever been in their life. When they referred their friends to me or to other trainers, MAQUIS is the best trainer in the DMV. And I use other people's success as my motivation. Like you said, sometimes anger fuels you. And sometimes, you know, you lose motivation. It happens. You know, training is a really grueling profession. There's highs, there's lows, there's seasons. So you have to stay with it. And sometimes I have to use things to kind of fuel my motivation sometimes. So there'll be days I'll go through IG and look at different trainers in the area like, he's not better than me.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not. He doesn't have a better body than me. He doesn't have more knowledge of training than I do. I could be better than him. And that fuels me. It continues to fuel me. Like my goal is to be the best trainer in the DMV. I want everybody who's in fitness, who likes to work out in the DMV area to know Fahrenheit Fitness. And it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So
you got a little competition here. Heads up, but it's okay. I like it. I like it. I like it though. No, you want to you want to put your best foot out there. Like for me, I want to be a coach where people know me very, very well. Like people are like, oh man, this guy knows what he's talking about. Like I was working out, what was it, Wednesday, and I had a trainer just test my body fat levels and my muscle mass. And I was pretty high up there, like in terms of muscle mass. Body fat mass, it is what it is. That's because my training is different because I'm doing a lot of cutting. Towards the next 2 months, do something more high intensity, so explosive work, because I typically do the bodybuilding work. So he asked me, you know, can I put you through a session? I'm like, well, what type of stuff do you do? And so I do strength training. I like dumbbells. I'm like, do you do kettlebells? I'm like, yeah. Are you kettlebell certified? No. You know, do you do boxing? No. So it's like, if you don't have a select service or services that are, one, you know very well, two, to your niche, then I can't really invest in you as a coach. I'm a trainer. I even told him that. But like, for me, if I offer something, I want to know that's something that is very beneficial and that's appealing to the market. So I found boxing to be very appealing to the market because it helps with all levels of athletes, regardless if you play football, if you play basketball, soccer, track. It's an endurance and strength game, that sport. So having that niche, at least for me, gives me a leg up. So yeah, it's funny because when I see people train, I'm like, this is how your programs work. That's how you train people. I'm not judging anybody. I'm not putting anyone out there, but I'm like, if I were to be in that session, or if I were to coach you, my coaching session would be completely different. Mine would be a little bit more high intensity, depending on the person, more like high intensity training, not the 2 eyes, but 1 eye. So sometimes it's just like getting yourself known and out there. It's like, hey, what do people do? And the other thing is, like, how do you look as a person? Because the guy who asked me if I wanted to train with him, I'm like, I have at least 20 pounds on you, at least. I don't know if you want to like do that with me, but just know your person. Basically, you can't do that and like say, oh, you know, if I was somebody else who's novice to the gym, it's different. Novice to the fitness game. But for somebody who's been doing this for years and really has been through the ringer, maybe that's not your market. That's not your avatar, your ideal person, right? So, yeah. So I agree with you.
I want to piggyback off of you mentioned how you look, and I always ask my clients just randomly. And actually, I think I posted a poll about this on my story a little while back. And I'll ask you this question too. Just say you're the show and you're looking for a trainer.
Yeah.
Right. Would you trust a trainer who is overweight as opposed to a trainer who's really, really in shape? Would the physique of the trainer that you're trying to train with influence if you would allow them to train you or not? You personally.
I would go with the guy who has the better physique. For me, he's a living embodiment of proof. If he can present himself in a way where, hey, he shows that he has taken care of him, like, it kind of comes with, it's like going to an interview, right? It's really making sure you are well prepared for the person you're about to meet. It's the same concept here. If you are looking to train somebody and you don't show the physique to say, hey, this is what I can do to get you there, this is what I've done, it's the same concept. People are going to just dismiss you, or the chances of people dismissing you are very, very high. So that's the reason why I would go for the person who has the better physique versus the person who is not as nice or overweight, if that makes sense.
That to say, because I think just from a client standpoint, I think people who are looking for trainers look for trainers in the wrong perspective. I think people look too much into how a trainer looks as opposed to the that they've learned over time. Because a person who is overweight, maybe they don't personally, and I understand why, you know, you want somebody who is an example to you. You want someone who kind of, like you said, embodies the goal that you're trying to reach personally. But if that person doesn't know what they're doing, but you have Jimmy John down the street who might be a little overweight, but has a bachelor's in kinesiology, has tips with whoever, or has learned whatever, I don't think you should dismiss him because he's overweight. That's just my thing. But I think people do take that too much into account. Like, say Jimmy down the street who's a little overweight, doesn't look the part, but he has clients and people who get results. You know, Maxwell, who has 100,000 Instagram followers, who has a six-pack, but doesn't know anything about how to train somebody. You know, I think that plays a big role in people's success with their goals that they reach. You know, and I think people kind of look at that and now to backtrack a little bit, because I feel like I'm rambling. You also mentioned that when I said I want to be the best trainer in DMV, you said you got a little competition. I don't think it should be a competition. I don't think we have to compete against each other for clientele. Like you said, we all have niches. We all have specialties and things that we perfect, that we specialize in. So if I'm good at weight loss, but I know Chris is good at boxing and endurance training, I will refer my clients to Chris. Say, Chris, this is endurance. I think boxing would help them, and vice versa. So
if someone was really focused on weight loss and they only specify weight loss and mobility, I'd probably put you in the mobility category as well, because you have a biology, kinesiology background and you worked in the physical therapy office. I would probably put you and refer to you rather than me. So you got to know your niches. Like for me, because I go bodybuilding, maybe muscle mass is a little bit more my realm. Not to say it's not to say that you aren't. I would just say, hey, what are your one or two true niches? Like I was talking to Sarah, because Sarah sent me like a business plan for her coaching business, for her mindset coaching business, and she wants to target this person. I want to target moms. I want to target this. I'm like, hang on, are you any of these people? Because that's my first question. Are you any of these people? Can you relate to any of these people? And how can you do that? And I just encouraged her to focus on 1 or 2, at max 3 niches rather than 5, 6, 7.
Yeah.
Right? It's just a lot. It's just a lot. One person I follow on Instagram focuses only on kettlebell training. So it's like, but he does immensely well for his clientele and for his Instagram, because it's like you and I, right? We're trying to monetize our Instagrams. There are going to be some days, and frankly months I know I have, where it's not going to go the way I want to, but it's just a phase, right? It time comes, things grow, things change, and options are there, right? Try some new things. But yeah, I will agree with you. You got to know what the niche is, and say, not to, I like people to be helped the best way possible. Yes, I do want clientele. Yes, I want to help people, but I want to help you the best way I can do it. If I know Marquis can do a better job at this realm than I can, I'm gonna refer you to, I'll be honest, there's a guy that I know better than I would at this. But if I have something that you want, this is where we're gonna talk and sit down and say, hey, this is how this is gonna work. It is what it is. And that the facts are there. The facts are there, right? So yeah, no. What were you about to say? Sorry. Oh yeah. Well, we're talking about niches, and we're talking about we were talking about, finding a trainer, whether he's like a different physique or not, which it can vary. Because I agree, just because you have a different physique doesn't mean you're not good at your position. I would just think from a presentable standpoint, the chances of you being knocked down are a little higher. I hate to be like mean about it, and I'm not trying to be mean about it, but I want to be factual and to say, hey, people who want, it's like go back to the interview thing, right? People want a position. You want to make sure you're dressed well and firmly and strong for the position. You're well prepared. You have answers to questions that the interviewer is going to ask you. You have questions yourself about the role or whatever that position you're trying to shoot for. It's the same thing with training. You want to know your clients, and your clients want to know you. That's how the relationship comes in.
I use this example all the time. I'm pretty sure if you go to the dentist, your dentist's teeth are jacked, yellow, dirty, missing teeth, you probably wouldn't go to that dentist, right? Because how you take care of my teeth, you can't take care of your teeth. Kind of situation. But if that dentist is really good at what they do, you can't necessarily fall back on how people present, which I understand, but anyway. But back to your point about niches, I think for me, I kind of remember Sarah mentioning that to me, how she was trying to find her niche with doing things, but it's hard though. You kind of have to find it. It doesn't always come to you. It's something you have to kind of go through trial and error and just kind of figure out where do I fit, because I remember trying to find my niche. I started out with strength training. Then I went to, hypertrophy training. I was like, so going back to the fact that I'm not the biggest guy. So trying to train a bigger guy to, bulk up or to get them together for a competition. If that guy is 6'1", 250, he's looking at me, I'm 5'9", 180, he's probably not going to come to me because I don't fit that profile, no matter how much I know, But you got to take a lot of things into account to find your niche. You have to be relatable to your niche. And that was one thing I figured out the hard way, because I was trying to, like I said, relate to more of hypertrophy training and strength training. And I guess I'm not the bulkiest, biggest guy. So people kind of, he probably doesn't know what he's talking about because he's not the biggest guy. But I started out there, and then I kind of went more into to weight, because it's more of I wouldn't say it's easier necessarily, but it's more defined. It's more like, first of all, there's always going to be people wanting to lose weight. There's always going to be people wanting to gain. You have a big population of people who want that. But also for the most part, losing and gaining weight are pretty simple to do. It's generic to anyone. Someone who's skinny, someone who's bigger, losing and gaining weight for the both of them will be the same general process. So that's kind of where I found myself, because I can, from a trainer and a business aspect, I have more people to, you know, help, but also I can streamline my services so I'm not all over the place trying to help a large group of people. So for say if I was trying to be a strength coach, for example, a woman and a guy, training them will be very, very different. How you approach it will be very, very different. If that woman's larger, it'll be very, very different. If the guy's smaller as opposed to being bigger, it's very different. But at the end of the day, when it comes to weight loss and weight gain, the bottom line is always the bottom line, no matter who you are, what you are, how big you are, how small you are. So if you have a set process to do what you want to do and reach that goal, it makes everything so much easier. So that's kind of why I choose my niche. But why'd you choose your niche?
So the saying goes, if you try to appeal to everybody, you will please no one, right? So I chose my niche, or 2-3 niches, is because 1, I have the experience in it, 2, I can explain it, and 3, I'm a living embodiment. I do it currently. So I feel like if you don't have those 3 aspects, you won't be able to deliver well. You won't be able to deliver those the particular niche well if you don't have those 3 aspects. So that's the biggest 3 is why, you know, I know that people have an appeal to boxing. They just haven't tried it, and they want to do it, but sometimes they don't know who to go for. I know that people want a better physique. Maybe it's gaining a little bit of muscle mass, which isn't really a bad thing. Actually gets you stronger and prevents injury. And from an endurance standpoint, well, I mixed it into strength training anyway. And I used to play a lot of athletics, and I know a thing or two about running. I know a thing or two about rowing, because I would do a lot of rowing myself too, getting back into it. And it's a focus game, and it helps regulate your heart. Is for me, so like, I think my family's, I think I've heard this correctly, is high, had a history, maybe high, slightly high in blood pressure, slightly high in cholesterol, but it comes with the family. I mean, I'm perfectly fine now, but I can talk about how cardiovascular training has changed the game, especially those who are at that risk or at that name. So yeah, that's why. Cool. Well, I don't have anything else. We kind of went a little over time, but that is all right. It is A-okay. Those who are watching, who are still watching, I know some of us that came and left. Thank you for coming. Let us know what you want next. Let us know if you want to have something in person. If you want to hop on a call with us, a live, we'd be happy to do that as well. I already got a couple people that I'm thinking about right now. I'll potentially ask. Let us know what you want next. Let us know how you want us to do this next. Do you want something in person? Do you want us to continue doing this? We want to make sure that we impact y'all. We want to make sure we give y'all facts, truthful information, nothing less, nothing short.
Always. If we won't, we can't make you guys happy. We can't entertain you guys unless you give us feedback. If you don't, we're just going to continue to do our thing. So like you mentioned, if there's anything that you guys want to know, you want to do Q&As, or if you guys have questions that you want us to address during the lives, things like that, shoot us DMs, you know, comment in the lives what questions you have. Feel free to ask or request to join. I mean, we would love to talk to you guys and engage you guys too. So
yeah, if you guys want to see different unique workout videos, something unorthodox. I know Marquise and I have been talking about finding time to meet at a gym or anything to do something. If you guys want that, we're going to do it anyway, but if you guys want more of that, let us know. We'll plan that too. We'll plan a little more of that.
For sure.
Cool. Marquise, as always, thank you. I appreciate you taking the time. It means a lot. As always, guys, we're going to definitely do it again. Reach out to Marquise or myself for anything really. Any advice, nutrition, types of fitness, what you're looking for. That's what we're here. That's what we're here for. So cool. Marquise, as always, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day, and
sure.
We'll catch up soon,
The sun
man.
just came out, so soon. Trying to enjoy this weather.
Yeah, no, first the rain, now the sun came out midday. I'm like, all right, jeez. That's Maryland. That's Maryland weather.
Yeah, all right, bro. Definitely, we'll make it happen.
Yeah, sounds good. We'll do.
Stay,
be in touch.
Enjoy your weekend.
All right, brother. You too.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. The aim is to make a positive impact to as many people as possible. So if you enjoyed this, please share the show and help grow this podcast. I appreciate you guys. Keep pushing